Hey, are the Harmy Hearties, and welcome to the 1.5 Hopper tutorial.
Yo ho, a pirate's life for me.
We are standing on the red carpet of Hopper functionality, and we are going to start from the very beginning from telling you what a hopper is to exactly how, let's say, an item sorting system works. For reals, not how you build it, but how it works. And in the way, we will learn everything there is to know about the hopper. So, if we take a look at the hopper, we have one right here. We are reading the inventory, and if there's something in it, this light will go on. Now, the first obvious thing that a hopper can do is take an item that is above it and put it into its inventory. But how does it take it, and why does it take it? Now, it takes from the entire block above it. So where this red wool is, it's trying to take items. So if I throw something at it, it won't take it, because the item won't reach inside this area. You may notice that I have a soul sand in my hotbar, and that is because if I take an example right here, I can actually do this. Put that soul sand right there. Look at our y-axis coordinate. I'm standing at block height 27. Now I'm standing on block height 26, but I'm standing on 26.875, so I am actually standing a little bit inside this block. And since it is taking from this sized area, since you actually can't see the gap, but the item will actually sink down a little bit into this block, you can see that when I put an item on top of it, it is disappearing. If I can hit it properly, and I could almost. There should be 2-3 items in here, and I hope you understood that it is taking from the entire block above it, the bounding box of what is called a block. So a half slab, a cake, anything that doesn't or that isn't a complete full-sized block will let items get taken by the hopper. But since this is a full-size block, the hopper won't be able to take anything. Now, there are 2 more things hoppers can do except taking items from the real world and put it into the inventory world. It can manage it inside the inventory world. And what do I mean? Yes, it can do 2 things. It can push items into another inventory, and it can pull items from an inventory. And what is an inventory? So what you can see behind here is the things that are called an inventory in Minecraft. The hopper itself is an inventory. I can open it and put items inside it. The furnace, dropper, hopper, a chest, both kinds, and double chests as well. Minecart chest, furnace minecarts, and the hopper minecart. All of these are considered inventories, and hoppers can interface with all of these and put items in or pull items out. So if I have an empty chest here, a hopper above it, it will push the items. Remember that I'm calling it push. I am doing that for a reason. It's not falling, it is getting pushed inside this chest. So if I grab all my items again and put them in this chest, this hopper will pull them out from the chest, drilling a hole in the bottom of the chest or something. I don't know how, but it is pulling the items out. You can place the hopper in different directions. I would say 2. You can place it down and to the side, and it will work the same way. Let me divide this stack. I can put half of it here, half of it here. Since the bottom part of this hopper is pointing into the chest, both of them is pushing the items inside the chest. So doing this and putting items inside this one won't do anything, because it has to shift, right click, face into the chest, and that works in all 4 directions. You can see that it is facing to the side if the bottom part is sticking to the side. And there I put the hopper in the chest. But as many of you may know, we can power hoppers to disable their functionalities. You can clearly see when a hopper is powered or not by the light on the light lamp. And the way you need to power this hopper is if you power the block next to it in any way, like if you have a redstone dust above it or going into the side of it, the hopper will get powered. How doesn't matter, as long as there is something next to it being powered. Now what happens if we take the one above it? It will be stopped from accepting items from the top. It cannot take loose items and put them in the inventory world. If I put items inside of it, nothing is happening. It is stopped from pushing items into another inventory. And finally, if I put it, release that, lock the one below it, it is being stopped from pulling items out of a above inventory. So if you have a hopper between 2 chests, you turn it off. This is blocked from taking the items from the top, but as well it has been blocked from pushing items in. So if I stop it for a while, turn it on, you can see there is a redstone here, a few here, but everything had stopped and nothing is going on anymore. Now what happens when you have a so-called hopper line as we have here? It's a small one, but it is a hopper line. If I place an item in the first one, it will go through and end up in the chest. What's happening is that this is pushing into this one, so it's not gravity pulling it down to the side, because gravity doesn't work that way. It pushes the item to the next one. This one pushes the next item, and so forth and so forth. If I lock this one, put items in it, it will have items in it. Let's just use one. If I unlock it, it will go through. If I lock this one, the first one is allowed to push. Even though this is locked, this is allowed to push. This isn't powered. I can remove the lever. I'm gonna put an item in and it's gone. It's not here anymore, it's in here. Why? Well, the reason for that is what I've just said actually. This is allowed to push. So even though I have locked this won't pull, it won't push, it won't grab items from the outside world, like this. It's just bouncing around. And now it actually jumped into that one, but if I do like this, you can see it just bounced away. But this isn't locked. This is allowed to pull, but most of all it's allowed to push. So this will push an item into the locked hopper where it won't go anywhere, because this is locked and it's not allowed to push it any further. If I would lock this, unlock this is now allowed to push. This isn't, so the items is stuck in here until I release. And I now hope you have some kind of understanding of what pushing really means. So in the next stage, we will look at a hopper line going straight down. We will lock the one in the middle. You can see this is empty, everything is empty. Let's put an item in the top. If you can figure out what's going to happen, very well. If you can't, you will be told very soon. I'm going to put an item here. It's going to get pulled from this because this is not powered. And it's going to end up in the bottom. Now why is that happening? Because we clearly turned this hopper off. Now let's see. We got here. This is allowed to pull. It takes the item. And this is not allowed to pull, but this is allowed to push, isn't it? The same thing that's happening over there. This can push the items into this one. This can't push it any further. Sorry about Skype. This can't push it any further, but this one, which is below, which isn't powered, is allowed to pull the item out. So this is allowed to pull the item from the locked hopper. So in a hopper line like this, we actually can't turn off. We can't turn off like this. It's going either way. You see the items are just, it's getting in and being taken out. This is doing nothing at all. This is basically just a chest right now. It's not providing anything to the system. This is forcing the items into this hopper, and this is pulling them out. It's dragging the items out and then pushing them inside the chest below. But let's make this controllable so we can turn off the flow right here. How do we do that? Okay, we know we can do this in two ways. Or in one way. We can actually do this in one way. Let's stick with one way. And so let's see what's going on. This is pulling. Okay. This is pushing inside this. Okay. This is doing nothing. And this is pulling from the one in the middle, which we are powering. So we can stop this from pushing items into this one so the items won't reach this one. We can do that by putting this on the side. It is now trying to push items into this block. This block is not an inventory, and nothing will happen. This is now powered. It will not be allowed to pull items from this hopper. And when we put our 16 redstone in the top, they will go into the hopper below. This will try to push them into here. Nothing is happening there. This is being locked, not trying to pull, and the item stays. If I unlock this, it is now pulling items from the top into this hopper. This is also pulling, and we can see our 16 redstone at the bottom. I hope you had time to follow along there. So here we're going to learn a little bit more about the push and the pull. Now, of course, there's always more to learn. We have already learned that it is pushing and pulling, but we're going to learn a little bit of how you can use it and how it really works. So it's going in alternation modes. It's pulling, then pushing, then pulling, then pushing. And the way we can use this in a hopper line is that it's technically pulling first. But the way it actually happens in the hopper line, if we have a hopper below it, is we pull an item from the chest, it's here, we push it, it's here, and then the next move to do is pull. So this one is pulling. We pull the item out. When it's time to push, this pushes nothing. But this would push the next item into here, and this can pull. So we go pull, push, pull. We're going to read that the items are ending up in this inventory. Ta-ta. And we can also read what items end up in the chest. So I'm going to place our stack here. You can see the light going on. We have pull, push, pull. So if we place a hopper below a hopper line, it's always going to pull all of the items that goes past, unless we force this off, which we're going to go through over here. So as you can see, we're getting all the items down here, and that is because we are pulling, then pushing, then pulling, and when we push the next time, this pushes nothing, this pushes an item into here, and then we go to the pull stage where this pulls a new item, and this pulls out the one that was here. I know it can be a little hard to follow along, but I'm doing my best to explain, and I hope I succeed somehow, at least. Now I am actually going to tell you something about the comparator instead of the hopper, but it is kind of based from the hopper, and that is because I'm going to explain how the sorting system works, and I kind of need to explain this comparator first. So I'm going to take a stack, almost. I'm going to take 23 quartz block from the floor with magic, so the floor is still here, and I'm going to take 22 of those, and I'm first of all just going to take one. You can see that we have 1 block length of signal, or 1 signal strength, and this has no power because we have 1 item and it's only giving out a signal of 1 because this is reading how much we have in the inventory. It's not reading if we have something in the inventory. It's technically doing that, but what it really does is reading how much. So I'm going to place my 22 items, and it's still saying 1. That is because it's reading the how full the entire hopper is, and divided by 15, and the next stage, if we would go to second, is first when we have 23. So I'm going to place one up here. I have turned it off. It cannot pull. It will pull when I allow it. It will pull the item out. We know that now. So when I turn this off, the light goes on because we now have 23 items. 23 is the tipping point from 1 signal strength to 2. And then if we would keep adding items like that, we would get 3, then 4, then 5. But the tipping point from 1 signal strength to 2 is 23 items. So we are now at the item sorting system, and yeah, I'm going to show you how this works in completeness, something like that. So we've gone through all the functions that we have here. This is just a demonstration of what I showed you over at the tower here. Because I was planning on showing you that after this, but I realized that I needed to do this first. So first of all, we're going to take a look at the circuitry. Okay, we are reading this hopper for how many items it has. Okay, it has less than 23, we know that. We only have 1 block of signal, so it doesn't reach down here. We have a repeater reading if we have power in this block. We get power on this block once we have 23 items inside this hopper. When we get 23 items, this dust turns on and this gets powered. What happens then is that this torch turns off, but right now it is on and it's powering this block right here. Since this block is powered, this is turned off, meaning that the items in here is not getting pulled out. And since it is facing the comparator, and a comparator don't have an inventory, you can't put items inside a comparator, these are staying. The items inside is the following. It's a repeater. Let's take a few of those. and a bunch of sticks. Let's count. 5, 10, 15, 21, and 22. So if I stack these together, we have 21 items plus the repeater. Of course, important to read that. We have 22 items. So, slow motion, in the mind. When we put a comparator here, it's disappeared. It's keep disappearing. Okay, so what's going on? We have 22 items. When we put the 23rd one in, this through this block is going from 1 signal strength to 2. This is powered. This turns on, turns off the torch, unpowers the hopper below it. It is allowed to pull one item. Oh, it's now 22. Okay, we need to turn this dust off. The signal strength is only 1 now. This turns off and the torch turns back on again. So, that is how the sorter itself works, but why is it pulling the items? Well, we've gone through that. It's pushing, pulling, nothing happens. Pushing, pulling. Since we don't power this block or this hopper, we're not powering this hopper, we're powering the one below it, we can actually make this pull the items from the top. And since this one's inventory is full of sticks and a repeater, if I would put a dust above it, there's now a dust right here. This hopper is trying its best to pull out this dust above it, but it doesn't have the space to do it. There is no way we can put a dust inside this hopper. And since we can't put the dust inside, it is now doing nothing. We're not letting items go through. And once the next push comes, it goes over here and continues and ends up in this chest. So what happens when I put in the repeater? They get pulled, push, push. This can pull. As you can see, it's going up to 2 and then getting the items pulled out. This is keeping off because this flickering can't go through the torch because torches are annoying and can't react as fast as the rest of the redstone components. But the pull happens, the push happens, the push happens. When the pull happens, it is allowed to take out the repeater because it can fit. If it fits, it sits. And it takes the item in here. The things we talked about before happen. This can pull. And, well, since it's not being powered, it can push as well. But we get an item stuck in here. And the reason for that is when it turns off, this is actually quick enough to not let it push. If it would give it enough time to push, it would pull first, then push. Since it pulls first and then pushes, it's going to pull an item out from this one, which would be the last item, and we would have an empty spot right here, and anything could go inside. So that should be everything you can know about the hopper. Hopefully now you have enough information that you can build your own sorting systems or your own cool stuff, timers and everything you can build with the new amazing hopper. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you didn't, feel free to leave a dislike and see if I care. I hope you enjoyed this video. I've already said that, didn't I? Yeah, I did. Until the next time.